Hello, friends. Why was a werewolf arrested in the butcher shop? He was caught stealing in the store. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. My sweet, sweet Rosie von Zimmer. I fell for her the moment she entered the McDonald's I used to work on. Only 16, a cascade of silky black wavy hair falling graciously over her perfect shoulders, pale and delicate, adorned with a very thin necklace that was worth months of my income. She had 2 friends with her, but I guess I never registered their names or faces. Whenever Rosie entered a room, it was only her existence that mattered. She graciously walked to my counter and ordered. I remember she being the only one in her group not choosing Diet Coke, because if you gonna drink soda you gotta do it right. She commented on my tattoo. It's a beautiful deer on my forearm, adorned with flowers. A strong and gentle image, just like her. Just like my Rosie von Zimmer. It's not too much to say that it was the best moment of my life so far. She not only acknowledged my existence, she liked something about me. I had always been a classless bastard, working odd jobs to survive and help my sick mother and younger sister Frankie. I didn't want her to endure the hardships that I did, so I sent money home every month, even if it cost me a few meals, it did. At 21 I was exhausting myself with shift after shift and 3 hours of sleep a night, so I could help provide for my family and indulge my love for tattoos and music. It was 1988, I wouldn't dream of having music accessible everywhere. I love your tattoo! Rosie seemed genuinely excited, like a child, but with the voice of an angel. With confidence I didn't know I had. I smiled my best smile and thanked her without stuttering. The restaurant was nearly empty at that time mid-afternoon, so while my co-workers prepared her meal she continued the small talk. I wish I could make one but my parents would kill me! Once again, she sounded so innocent. So sheltered and pure it melted my heart. If you want I can take you to the studio and you can make a small one in a hidden place. These words came out of my mouth before I even knew I was speaking them. I am both terrified and thankful by how they sealed our fates. She smiled so happily. I'd love to. Can you really take me? Her excitement was contagious, and I couldn't help but smile happily too. Sure. Whenever you want, miss, I replied, noticing I was being charmed again. I never considered myself shy or ugly, but I wasn't the opposite either. Up to that point, I had dated a little, some nice, cute girls, but no Hollywoodian beauty like her, and nothing serious either. Do you have a bike? She asked me, eyes wide with zest, pronouncing the last word like one talks about a forbidden paradise. I do, I attested simply. So please take me there tomorrow in your bike. I'll come at 5. And she grabbed her order. Being rich, she probably had no idea there was a concept called shift, but I made arrangements with my colleagues and was able to go with her. My bike was a rundown piece of crap, to be honest, but I loved it. She seemed to love it too. Can you lend me your jacket? She asked. My leather jacket was too old and run down like everything I owned, but she was amazed at the being poor experience. So she held me tightly and we went to my friend's studio. Leonard was my roommate and a good friend. He was very talented but worked in a very small studio in a crappy neighborhood. Everyone in the alternative scene knew him and loved his work, but he was far from being as prestigious as he should be. I always wanted a deer too. Do you mind me copying you? She gingerly asked me. Of course not! I smiled. Leo's tattoos are always unique, so we'll have a pair, not twin tattoos. Why don't you hang out with us after that? Leo invited her, something I was honestly scared to do. I knew nothing in our world would be on her level. But she smiled and agreed. She chose to have a small deer face inside an upside-down triangle tattooed a few centimeters under her breast and above her waist. On the left side, it was a place she could hide even when using bathing suits, as long as it wasn't a bikini. I almost died when she unceremoniously took off her shirt to get the work done, and did my best not to stare at her milky skin, finely covered by the lacy baby blue apparel. A few tears escaped from her eyes as Leo dug the needle on her ribs, but she refused to openly cry. She wanted so much to be a badass. Your skin is a great canvas. Come back whenever you want. I'll even give you a discount since you're Frederick's friend, Leo offered. She loved the tattoo, and I instructed her about how to care for it so it heals nicely. Then she followed us to a shady bar that Leo, his girlfriend Lena and I went all the time. She and Lena clicked immediately, and later that night my friend drunkenly said, "Fred, you have to marry this girl." She thought she was whispering, but everybody heard her and laughed. Rosie was sitting by my side and put her arms around my neck. "I don't know about marrying, but I really wanna kiss you right now." Kissing her was like floating in the space, the infinite bed of stars brushing softly on my skin as I passed by. I don't know how else to describe it. It was so magical, it was like there were only us in the universe. At that moment, nothing else existed: the shady bar, my dead-end job, my overdue bills, her parents. We became inseparable. Her friends would cover for her with lies about sleepovers, group projects and studying routines. They thought it was thrilling to sneak out and have sex with an older, tattooed guy. On our first month anniversary, Rosie bought me a new, amazing bike. I said I couldn't accept it, but she told me to stop being a fool. That's how rich she was. She would spend a lot of nights in my tiny 2-bedroom apartment, never seeming to be bothered by how precarious it was. Leo didn't mind, he was a lot at Lena's or at the studio anyway. For the first time in my life, I thought I was allowed to be happy. Everything would be alright as long as I never got angry, and I couldn't see myself getting angry with the joyous life I was having. We started making plans. "Maybe when I go to college you can come with me to another city. We can live together and my parents won't even know," she said, giggling at the idea of liberty. I was more than willing. I would work any physically consuming job with a smile on my face to be with my Rosie. I called her Doe because of her tattoo, but she insisted I was the one with doe eyes, so she called me Bambi, a funny but cute nickname if you're in love. We never fought. She sometimes didn't know how things worked in real life for people that aren't stinking rich, but I found it endearing. And she loved learning. She hated the idea of living her whole life being a sheltered little princess, isolated from the rest of a world that brimmed with life. She wanted to be a part of it. After celebrating our 7th month together in our usual bar, we started to make our way to the exit. I said I would catch her in a moment. In my dazzling happiness, I forgot how dangerous the world was. When I found her a minute later, she was physically fighting against a man and losing. She had sweat on her forehead from the struggle and a little blood on her arm. His face held unspeakable malice. I got so angry at the idea of someone violating in any way the precious woman I loved. I only remember sprinting in his direction in fury. I woke up the next morning to Rosie's worried face. It was clear that she had spent the whole night awake by my side. "Freddy? Bambi. She broke down crying, and held me so tightly against her petite body I thought my bones were going to smash hers. Thank you for saving me. Did you? Yes. Do you wanna leave me? Hell, no. You're my protector and my savior, babe. I was grateful at the thought that she wasn't able to understand the gravity of what I had done. Whenever I get furious, I transform. I wouldn't say I am a werewolf, because the moon cycle has no impact over me, it's just my own emotions. But I sort of look like one at times. A hairy monster ready to devour anything that makes me feel rage, with claws and fangs dotted with superhuman strength. I get really scary, but fortunately, seem to be still able to discern friend and foe. My mother was the first to know about it, and she said my dad had it too. My sister doesn't know. We do our best to protect her. It's ugly. Every time it happens, I cruelly rip a human to shreds and eat their bloody remains, while drooling and snarling. Besides my mother, only Leo knows about it, because 2 years ago a violent man broke into our apartment, mistaking us for a drug dealer that lives in the complex. When I saw the stranger stabbing my friend, I literally destroyed him. Fortunately, Leo's injury wasn't too serious, but I wonder what could have happened to us if I didn't turn into a beast, and I don't regret having butchered the man. I never have any recollection of it, and I only know it happened because when I wake up the next morning my body hurts like I ran over by a bulldozer. It happened thrice during the first 18 years of my life, and those times I was alone or with my mother, then once with Leo and now once with Rosie. In my normal state, I am a very calm man. I despise violence, and I would never be furious enough for my beast side to be unleashed at a simple bar fight or couple-less quarrel. It only happens when I have to defend my life or the life of someone I deeply care about. Was I scary? I asked. A little, yes, she said. But you never showed animosity against me, just against the man. You erased his existence. It was kinda cool because it's you. After a few seconds feeling strangely happy to be accepted by the woman I love as the bloodlust beast I can be sometimes, I realized I screwed up. I was supposed to have taken her home the night before. Her parents weren't expecting her to sleep at a friend's that night. We had no cell phones back then. I had no phone at my apartment and Rosie said she was too scared to go out and look for a payphone, so nothing could be done. That was the day the von Zimmers found out about us. They called her friends' houses and their friends' parents told them Rosie wasn't there. The next day, they were at my door. They offered me a lot of money to leave Rosie, to move to another state and never look for her again. I refused and shoved them out. Rosie was grounded, but she sneaked out to see me one last time, and we made love desperately. I remember tasting the salt of her tears like it accentuated the sweetness of my love for her. I never told her about the offer, I just knew I would make it work somehow. I wouldn't mind if it took me a few years. This beautiful woman understood me and accepted me. I didn't care if she was doing all of it just to piss off her parents. I didn't care if she wouldn't wait for me, I would wait for her. The next time I woke up, I was in prison. They told me I unleashed the beast at Rosie and she was gone. They had eyewitnesses and a solid case against me. I was sentenced to a lifetime in prison. They said I was lucky I wasn't institutionalized. 30 years. 30 years I spent in jail, thinking about Rosie, trying to remember that night, trying to remember why. Why would I attack her? why the beast in me would kill the best thing I had in my life. I did everything I could not go crazy. It was so hard just going through each day. My mother and sister visited me, always teary, but trying to put on a brave face. Leo showed up at least once a year, with Lena only for the first. After they broke up, he became a very famous tattoo artist. Knowing he was deservingly successful was pretty much my only solace. My family was doing terribly and my other friends had abandoned me. I asked Leo a million times what happened that night, but he told me he wasn't there. I behaved in prison, learned jobs, minded my own business and never fought with the other inmates. The results could be catastrophic, and I hope to someday again walk the earth as a free man, at least to help my sister, just like our mother, that perished years earlier. She had developed Gaucher disease. I was released last year, and by that time Leo was terribly ill. He had lived a riotous life in the last couple of years and was left by his peers to die alone of Kaposi's sarcoma, and hepatoopportunistic disease. In his deathbed, my lifetime and an only friend confessed to me that he accepted money from the von Zimmers to them about my secret, and they made him tell the police I killed Rosie. Leo knew how powerful and dangerous they were, and he knew trying to oppose them would be a futile effort. If they decided they wouldn't he let their only daughter date on anyone, their only daughter wouldn't he date on anyone at any cost. I know he was right. I know I was naive to not accept their money to leave their daughter. But I stand by what I did. I am proud of the man I am. At first, Leo used the money to open a really nice tattoo parlor and live his dream, hanging out with the rich and famous, but soon the guilt started to eat him away, and he turned to the addictions. Wait! I screamed, after recovering from the initial shock. So what really happened to Rosie? What really killed her? Nothing really killed her, he said, and I hugged him despite his nasty blotched skin. Leo told me the von Zimmers had put Rosie in a mental institution for years because she was too depressed. After she was released, she never visited me because her parents paid good money to spread the information that I had died in prison. I even had a grave. Leo asked for forgiveness and told me he had found her current address. Didn't he wait until his funeral to get on a plane with borrowed money? As I knocked on Rosie's door, I expected her to be married, with kids, and have forgotten all about me. But she opened the door, and I only had a fraction of seconds to notice how beautifully she had aged before she threw herself into my arms. Bambi! I cried tears of joy as she let me in, and we talked for hours about what had happened. About how cruel everything was, how I thought she was dead and she thought I was dead too. Her parents even made her change her first name so my family or friends couldn't track her. Despite everything, I mentally thanked Leo, because I could only imagine discovering her whereabouts was a hard task. Rosie told me she hadn't lived a difficult life. After she was released from the mental ward, she went to college and found her passion in the arts. She became a locally well-known painter and was finally able to cut her parents off and make a comfortable living on her own. She then informed me she was still completely single and that I could kiss her. I thought you only dated me to piss off your parents, I said as I caught my breath during a heavy session of kissing. She tasted and felt exactly the same. At that moment, it was like the time had never passed, and we were young again. All my suffering seemed to be smaller faced with the largeness of being with her again. Silly Bambi. Even if it was true. They're still alive, you know? I still want to piss them off. I want to piss them off forever. I knew a vampire who became a poet. He went from bat to verse. be sure to subscribe to my channel. Greetings to those who enjoy bits of terror in their life. You may refer to me as Marius. Marius is not my true name, but a name I obtained when I had truly discovered my new identity. I write this here to make a number of confessions, and to bring various truths to light. While I know I am not like many people, there is a number out there like me who would probably be upset that I am revealing this information in such a public forum. I pray that my actions do not bring about dark consequences. The biggest confession of all I must make is that I am what you may call a vampire. We go by various names and synonyms, but for the sake of simplicity, I will refer to us like vampires. While the legend of our kind has been playing around and messed with over the centuries, we too have endured the trial of time. Oh yes, we are immortal creatures, abandoned by God. The reason you humans die is because of the events in Eden, but you have a chance at salvation. When we die, there will be nothing. No paradise, no fire, just black. In order for us to continue our lifestyle, we drink the blood of humans. It is not so much the blood that we are after, the taste is rather bitter at times, but the life force that is embedded in it. It functions in many ways, most of which are unknown to every vampire. To discover this, you must experiment a little and test your limits. One reason we drink is that the life force helps feed into our lives. When we drink your blood, we take days, weeks, even years away from that human's lifespan so that we can continue our lives. Another reason is to maintain the appearance that we forever wear ever since the moment we pass on into our next life. The sun, the symbol of the one who damned us, is our biggest weakness. No, we do not burn up, but our powers are weakened. As well, the life force we obtain drains with greater haste than normal. There are many of us who choose to live in a day, live inconspicuous lives. That is one way for us to survive in an ever-changing world. To turn into one of us is to make a contract, not with the devil, but with our own self. Can you truly take the life energy of another being, something you once were, in order to lengthen your own? The transformation process is simple enough that it sometimes can happen by accident. That's what happened to me. Whether done purposefully or due to the laziness of a vampire, they can transfer their own life force into you before stealing yours. This can be done simply with a kiss. I am sure that's what happened to me. A night out during the 17th century in my early 20s. Falling in love with a woman I had only just met. A long, intoxicating kiss, maybe a bit more. And then she bit into me. This is all speculation because I do not remember my past life. I woke up in a dark room the next day, and when I went to look at the sun, I became sick. It didn't take me long to discover exactly what I was. The first several months, I grieved and went into hiding. Before the start of the American Revolution, I took a boat and left the country. I didn't give a damn where I was going. On the boat, I ran into another of my kind, which I didn't expect. She had the look of a 15-year-old girl, her hair black, and her clothes tattered. She introduced herself as Elizabeth. She could tell what I was because I always cowered when any room had any kind of light. During our first discussion, she said that she had been around since the 13th century. Elizabeth aided me on that trip across the sea to Europe. She taught me the basics and became my friend. She asked me for my name, but I couldn't answer. She told me that I would have to pick my name for my new life, to pick one that comes to me as something that could only be me. That name would come to me several decades later. For simplicity's sake, we lived together. In public, we were seen as cousins. It was lucky that the two of us looked close enough to be distantly related and not be questioned about it. In our secrecy, and known to those who were also vampires, we gradually fell in love. Elizabeth has made me happy for nearly 3 centuries now. During our time in Europe, we witnessed great changes in the world. I had grown a love for literature. The stories of Dickens and Shelley delighted both me and Elizabeth to no end. My favorite has to be a book by Victor Hugo, who I did have a chance to meet before his death. The book is Les Miserables. In my meeting with Hugo, I could tell he was not too long for this world, but I did not wish to change him to what I had become. Some people have gained the right to have freedom. In Les Miserables, I gained the name of Marius, a romantic who has strong passions. My passion for literature as well as for Elizabeth was what kept me happy over the decades. Our relationship wasn't ideal or perfect. There were times where I had to stay away from her because of how we appeared in our stages in life, but it was our life. The two of us stayed in Europe, wearing different aliases, until the eve of Germany taking France in World War II. We went back to my birthplace, America. We have settled down in the middle of the country, hidden within a mountain town. Here, there are very few humans, but many who are like me and Elizabeth. Since then, we have lived in hiding from the few humans who live within our community. But I have had enough. The time has come for a change. For my namesake, it is time for a revolution. You, humans, have ruled the world ever since creation simply because God deemed you to be such. In reality, you are no different than the dogs you domesticate or the tigers in the wild. You are uncontrollable, and you must learn your place. Slowly, it has started all around you. Little by little, people are taken away from their families, from their lives, just like I was. This is the first stage of our plan. Some of these few will be recruited to be one of us, those who we deem to have a strong life force. Others will be food stock. And then, there are those who we will control. The controlled will help move the world in a direction where we can come out of hiding and be who we really are. Eventually, we will be the rulers of this new society. We have gained this right out of the suffering we have gone through because of the human race. Except for a few beautiful souls that have been placed in the history books, every human is a dirty creature, unworthy of the world that they have obtained. It is time for us to have our chance to have our way. We want to be asking very soon, in time. We will take what is rightfully ours. In the natural progress of time, it is time that we gain our freedom and our paradise. You will not be hunted to extinction. Not only are you humans our food supply, but you are also entertaining at times. It will not be a balanced existence, but it will be something that will become tolerable for you over time. You will learn to know your place, and in time, you will know nothing of the world as it is today. Do not mistake these words as warming in order to help you. This is not an act of kindness or fairness. In the end, there is no way for you to stop all of us. While you humans do outnumber us, we are still far superior creatures. Wild lions would be rulers of the world if they had the same sense of consciousness as humans. Unlucky for you, we were once humans. Our strengths greatly outmatch those of any creature in this world. I tell you this simply to give you a head start, to start planning your pitiful retaliation against us. It's no fun to attack your prey when they are not ready to fight. I want the best forces to come forth and give us everything you have. Then, I will laugh as you watch your flawless plans crumble as the world changes before your very eyes. As I said, you humans are very entertaining. Hello. Time to skinwalk a story. Yes, we need a skinwalker. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I've had a draft of this story set up for a while, but I've been too worried and scared to tell. It made me question everything. My faith, my eyes, my sanity. I've decided it's time to finally let others know about what I've experienced, as it may help me move on. At least that's what I hope. I recently moved westward to Arizona from the boring state of Oklahoma. I am a devout Christian, and never once before this had I believed there were entities in existence that we couldn't hunt down with our modern advancements. It's 2019, for heaven's sake. You'd figure if we wanted to find something, we would, and most of all, we could. It was the 23rd of December, 2018. I was in Payson, Arizona, a bit north of Phoenix. My friends and I, in our Christmas spirit, decided to head out north of town, about 5-6 miles or so into the forest on a secluded trail. It was cold that night. Some of my friends shivered and displayed obvious signs of unpreparedness. I was laid fairly well, and yet the winds and frigid cold punctured through my layers and onto me. We wanted to make a bonfire, warm up, enjoy ourselves and a few drinks. I knew as soon as I got into the car to head that way, something was off. I felt sick, uneasy, and something in my gut told me to just stay home. But I couldn't put my finger on just what, and ignored my ever so looming feelings of anxiety. We picked up friends and headed to the trail. I'm a huge nature lover, and always felt safe in the confines of the forest. I felt in control, at ease. But not tonight. It may sound cliché, but I'll be damned if it didn't feel like someone or something was watching me when we finally got there. And when I had gotten far enough down the trail that turning back would be no hasty endeavor, it finally hit me why I felt so eerie. That same year, during the weeks prior to Thanksgiving, I was here before. It's not a spot we usually go to. Therefore I was not familiar with it, nor were my friends. We were coming out for the same reason we were in December, for a few drinks around a bonfire. It was late. I, however, hadn't had any spirits that night. It was my job to gather firewood. I didn't mind. My chance to survey and explore the area around us wouldn't be bad. Before I even left our area, things took a turn for the strange. I was at the edge of the light being cast from the small bonfire I was to gather more fuel for. In the faint glow of the far trees, I caught a glimpse of something dark behind a tall pine. I asked backward to my friends if it was out of the ordinary for people to be hanging around this spot. My query was only met with silence from them, as they drank on. I took a few more steps beyond the comfort of the blaze, keeping my eyes affixed on the tall shadowy figure fixated behind the tall trees. I could faintly make out that it had moved in slight bobbing motion, like a buoy upon a tide. My immediate thoughts drew a blank as to why someone would be out here doing this. Maybe I was seeing things, or it was a prank of some sort. I opened my mouth to call out, or even crack a joke, but was mortified when I realized I could not speak. Something inside of me prevented me from making any noise. My heart raced. As it swiftly came, it shot off into the distance like a bullet. Being startled so badly, I fell back onto the ground and kicked myself back like a spooked animal, scratching and cutting my hands as I do so. My friends saw me and laughed, thinking I was drunk. I managed to stammer out a line to what I saw, but was only met with a few blank stares and laughs, making me sound stupid. For the rest of the night, I never dared step away from the beams of the bonfire. As I walked down that trail that frigid December evening, I remember what I had seen and felt on that cold November night, and my stomach dropped. My friends were slurring out Christmas carols and other drunk epiphanies. I know they wouldn't listen to me even if I spoke out, so I ignored the guttural feelings, prayed for the best and walked on. I hadn't been drinking much this night either. I don't enjoy alcohol as much as my friends, and often I was the one responsible for herding them home when the night was over. However, to calm my tense nerves, I had a drink or two from some Jaeger we had chilled in the ice chest. It was Christmas after all. It worked. We were all having a good time, enjoying our festive feelings and generally savoring the crisp forest atmosphere. Soon, nature called, and forgetting my prior ordeal, I began to walk away from the fire to relieve myself. I walked a fair 300 or so feet away towards a big rock resting behind some fallen trees, not wanting to be seen doing my business. I was not even far enough away from the fire to not be able to hear my friends' voices echoing through the woodlands. From behind me, my friend Corbin, who had come along, called out my name. I'll admit, I was tipsy, but nowhere near enough to not differentiate reality from a drunken stupor. I remember calling out to him, telling him to give me a moment to finish. I zipped up and turned to walk around the rock to where I heard him wander to. I don't know what it was, but sure as all heaven above and hell below was not Corbin. It took me a minute for my woozy mind to put this together and stop walking towards it. I am thankful I did. This being stood tall, at least 6 to 7 feet. Its eyes burned like our fire. It moved from a dog-like fall-limp position to standing tall. The light from the moon on this cold night radiated the body, showing off its stark slender shape with an inhumane sheen. I began to sob. Violently. My mind ran in panicked circles. Seconds felt like lifetimes as my world ground to a halt at the clawed feet of the beast that I was sure was going to take my life from me right then and there. I did the only thing I could think to do. I dropped to my knees and began to pray. This monster to my petrified brain had to have been the devil himself. To imagine him anything worse than it would be impossible. It did not like my pleas to God. An unholy shriek of what I can only think to describe as someone screaming loudly with lungs full of water rang out. I screamed in terror and with all the strength I could muster, lunged backward across the forest floor, running as fast as my legs could take me. I fell a few times. I think, in sheer panic. I just couldn't manage to get my body to work properly, knowing that thing was near. When I returned in a panicked craze to the fire, covered in sweat, dirt, and tears, I managed to wheeze out what happened somewhat through my sobs of fear. I could tell they doubted whether or not what I was desperately stammering out was real or not. I think I was so horrified at that moment that I had a small seizure because everything else is a blur. I remember going to the truck, leaving. I remember waking up the next day receiving a multitude of texts saying I was either stupid and crazy, or texts from worried friends asking if I was okay. And I also remember the last I saw of the thing before I made my frenzied flee. When it smiled back at me through the forest and skittered off into the darkness. A few days after Christmas, I was able to get in touch with a native elder here in town. I was so scared of mentioning the event because I was worried about being mocked or him not believing me. To a twist of my thinking, I told him very vividly what I had encountered. He wholeheartedly believed and told me he was a skinwalker. He then blessed me thoroughly and told me to leave that stretch of land alone and to never venture out there again. Next time I might not be so lucky. He didn't have to tell me twice. I know I sound crazy. If I were you, I wouldn't believe me either. But you don't have to. All you have to know is, for the love of God above and all things holy, never forget that we are not alone on this earth. Sometimes during the night, whenever I look out my window, I catch sight of eyes in the trees looking back at me. I will keep this thread updated. I am still horrified.